right, we got visual progression in MMOs. It doesn't exist. From Kira. All right, let me see what is going on. And actually, let me move my ass over. Okay, hopefully this won't be horrible.
You're actually not going to believe this, guys, and I don't want to believe it. I've just moved. Obviously, it's why I'm in an empty room again. And I've just spent 25 minutes recording a video for you guys about visual progression no longer being a thing in MMOs. And because I've just set up my computer again, the audio input on my OBS didn't work. So I've just sat here talking to myself, recording a video where I rambled and there was some straight fire points, and I went through all this, gave like crazy insight, and there's probably some amazing content there. And it's just all here, and there's no audio.
Bullshit.
There's 27 minutes or something. There's just no audio. I'm going to have to do it again, and I'm not going to remember most of the things I said. Oh, this is so sad. Well, here we go. Let me have a bit of caffeine before we start.
Well, we better try.
This has made me so upset. Right. Visual progression is no longer a thing in MMOs.
Okay.
We all know this to be true, right? Unless you play something that's super old. I'm currently playing a lot of old school RuneScape.
Yeah.
It fits its name. It's the best MMO. It's just so good. It's so addicting. It's so fun. It's that right amount of like, you can choose between. This is a reason I really like Black Desert Online, which is a terrible, terrible pay to win pile of shit. But in Black Desert Online, it respects your time in the way that you can either do stuff like AFK, semi-AFK, really active, like really active easy stuff, really active hard stuff. And you can kind of choose your lane as and when you want to. You're like, today I don't really feel like doing too much. I want to do a little bit of work.
Yeah.
I want to play a different game. And then you can just do that, but you're still making progress and you feel like you're still doing something in the game that you're electing to play. And if you want to be super active, you can be. Old school RuneScape's much the same, but it's not a pay-to-win piece of shit. So, been enjoying that a lot for the last...
So... my experience with RuneScape is very limited. When I was a little kid and I first saw somebody playing RuneScape, I thought the name of the game was called Run Escape. And I was like, why are you running everywhere? What are you escaping from? That was my knee-jerk thought as a little kid. And I saw those little pixelated dudes just walking around and shit. And at the time, that was like normal for the graphics. But I don't know. I just never got into it. Like, I tried to, because I would always have to go to the library to like get on the computer with like some decent level of internet, because we didn't have the money for like a computer. So I just went to the library, and it was so funny because there were so many other people playing RuneScape at the library too.
Sort of like month and a half-ish. Aside from games like old school RuneScape and classic WoW and things like that, you don't really have visual progression anymore. And there's a real simple reason for that.
I'd probably agree.
Because cash shops exist. And
yeah,
this guy posting this thread here, which is good that he did because it gave us something to talk about, doesn't seem to understand why we have pay to win. And I'm going to try and explain this as we go. So let's read the thread and then we'll go through some of the interesting comments.
I mean, just right off the rip, I probably would agree with Kira in that for the most part, in most MMOs, there's literally no... Well, most modern MMOs, I would say, there's no visual progression anymore. Simply because, you know, he said there's the cash shop, and a lot of cosmetics you can just buy and whatnot. I think visual progression is important in an MMO because you spend such a long time with your character, from like using World of Warcraft as an example, from going from like level 1 to level 60 in classic WoW, since you spend so much time at each level, and you spend a lot amount, a considerable amount of time whenever you get a new piece of gear, you're looking at that piece of gear for like in a couple hours. Okay, so the first time you get a set of shoulders, you know, it was awesome when I first got mine. I was like, oh shit, I actually got shoulders. Look at these things. Oh my god. And I think I was like level 12 or 15 or something like that. I forgot which ones actually I got. I think I was playing like a mage or something. But then I was like, bro, once I got the shoulders, I was like, oh shit, I'm big dick now. Watch out. I'm that what was that, the Sigma walk meme, like with the dude who's walking like that. But after that, what was the next like visual progression? When you first got your long cape in World of Warcraft, yes, the first couple capes that you got were like they're like tiny, and they like barely like went down. But the first time you got that long cape that like went down past your ass and like hit the ground, it's like, oh shit, I'm a hero now. And I think that was, I don't remember what level. I think it was like level like around 30ish or something. Maybe it was like 25. But all of these little things, like whenever I first put them on, they made me feel like I have like progressed in the game. And that's just, it doesn't seem to be the case anymore, at least with like a lot of modern MMOs.
He says, every MMO nowadays either has cosmetic shop or pay to win shop. Most have both. True. They pretty much all do. Almost every MMO, you could find a way to say it's pay to win in some way. It's unavoidable. You can't really get away from this. And I feel like if you want to enjoy the genre, you just have to change your expectations and how you feel about this stuff. Or the better solution, if you can't, to just go play older games or go play other stuff.
If you can.
Because the genre doesn't care about you or your thoughts or feelings. It doesn't care about my thoughts or feelings. It's just going to do what it's going to do. They're just going to make the most money that they can. Nothing's ever going to change. There's no future mechanism that I can see in my brain that's going to change what happens. And I'll explain why in a second. So even,
I mean, if another MMO does come out, or if you're hoping that we go back, that at some point that we go back to the days of it having visual progression, it would have to come from a new MMO that's going to come out, not anything that is currently out, if anything.
even Ashes of Creation has cosmetic shop on top of a subscription. Yeah. This is just one of those, it makes me flaccid as fuck.
Oh, I didn't even realize As the Creation has a what do you call it? A little cash shop for like cosmetic gear and shit. I mean, if that's the case already and it's not even out yet, I mean, shit, what is it? Like Alpha 1, Alpha 2 or some shit? And it's like, it's already got that in there. It's like, okay, here comes the slippery slope.
Right. When people start talking about upcoming MMOs and people mention Ashes, from what I played of the game, not mega excited anyway. From what I know about the idea of the game, not mega excited. And then when you add in that they've been selling cosmetics for a game 5+ years out from it being made, from it being finished, and it's nowhere near meaningfully being done now, I just struggle to care, to be honest. He says, then, I miss the days where I could look at someone and admire their gear. Same.
Yeah.
But now I look at some low level with shiny.
I mean, I still like enter, like, this is not just MMOs, but like all games. When I was a little kid, I would admire people's gear because it just looked cool. And, you know, upon me looking at like, you know, or like just talking to people in game, it's like, oh, how'd you get that? Well, I had to do this and this and that and that. And, you know, even for like FPSs with like certain gun skins or like character skins and whatnot, like FPSs back in the day didn't have a lot of cash shops. So like one example would have been, what was it? Me and my buddies back in my CC's days playing Call of Duty Ghosts, even though that's like one of the meme cods. We had fun because this was like one of the first times they implemented like a smartphone app to like do like some sort of like clan v clan thing where you take over nodes by uh, what do you call it? Like just winning a shitload of like certain types of matches, and then every at the end of like every month or something, or every 2 months, or however it went, it would be like, and your clans just got like divided up into like little, I don't know, 8-man clans or something like that, and there would be like a first, second, third, and the third place team got like some bullshit. The second place team got like some red skins, like it was all like red tiger. You got like red tiger on your like character body and like red tiger on your gun, and it looked badass. You got like a whole new helmet, all tactical shit, red tigered out of your mind. And then the first place team, they got the same pattern, but it was like shiny reflective gold. Same thing on your gun, same thing on your like body as your character, and everybody knew if you pulled up in a match and you're versing like the gold tiger dude, like even if you didn't have anybody else on the team, it's like, oh shit, watch out for that guy. He's good, right? That's what me and my buddies all agreed with that, and eventually we're able to get it, eventually. But I mean that even in Call of Duty, they had visual progression, but that's just doesn't seem to be the case nowadays. If you want a cool skin, you could just go pay for it.
Armor, and I know he swiped. It's also kind of the fault of our own. It is completely. It's not kind of.
Yeah. It's the fault of the entire player base, not like any one individual, not anyone like influencer just because they have a voice. It's like, I don't agree because my opinion. Well, it's like, well, your opinion kind of doesn't really matter because whoever is making the game is just going to do the decision that appeals to the most amount of people. If most people want to pay some money to get a skin, that's what that game developer is going to do. They're going to keep making skins. So it may not be your fault as an individual, but it is your fault as a collective of whatever video game community you associate with.
It just is. It is the fault of the gamers. A lot of MMO players nowadays are okay with cosmetics, which is horrible because cosmetics are the main reason we got paid to win in the first place. This is patently wrong.
Yeah. If you want to do anything in a video game, what is like one of the reasons that you do it for? For me, it was because maybe there was like a little like power gain from doing the thing, but there was also another piece where it was I can get this cool looking thing for doing this hard ass thing in the game. Having really cool cosmetics as a reward for doing hard ass shit in the game was the game loop for a lot of video games. But then when you take out that reward and put a money sign on it, what is the point of doing the hard thing if you're not a content creator? Because you can still do a hard thing in a game and like make a video about it, and it's like, that's fine and dandy. But for everybody's not a content creator. Everybody's not trying to do like some fucking speed run, some like 100 kills in like 2 seconds, or kill race this, or whatever game genre. You have to figure out some sort of progression that's not a battle pass for the general population of people playing your game.
This is just incorrect. I guess this is why I love Skyrim and Elden Ring so much. Yet single player games don't have to sell cosmetics. Although, looking at you, Assassin's Creed and fucking other, quadruple A slop, they'll try if they can, and people will still buy it. I love hunting for armors and weapons because they look cool. You never get that feeling in an MMO anymore. Like they just outright threw away the RPG part. And I said this in the previous iteration of this video.
And even in the specific case of MMOs, I think like even some MMOs can have a little bit of visual progression, but that is only in like the early levels, depending on whether or not your game is like instanced or not, to where you can see other players and shit. Like I would guess, like past like level 10, it's like anybody can have anything on. The moment you see some sparkly dude with like like shiny armor, flames, sparks, angel wings coming out of him, he's got like an aura, he's got like a floating crown, and all this shit, your immersion is immediately broken because you see this like little like badass like playable like player just walking through the world. It's like he just doing that. Like okay, and one of the reasons that that happens, I mean, because this kind of happens in like what was I gonna say, in like battle royales or FPS games in general, where some of this like matchmaking systems that are put into place are such that if you're like a new player and you got like no skins or like dog shit skins, they will purposely put like a really good player in your party just so they have like a really cool skin for you to look at and go, "Oh my god, that guy looks cool. How does he get that skin?" And because there's no other way that's explained in the game, or there's no game loop to like gain cosmetics, the player, the new player that just enters the game, sees the cool skin and immediately is like, "Oh god, I want that. I gotta go pay some money to go get that skin. I want that skin. Hey mom, can I borrow your credit card? Okay, thanks." Yeah, that's what happens.
You're never going to find anything truer than what I'm about to say to you right now, so pay real close attention. MMOs nowadays are not designed for MMO players. And what do I mean by that? The people who used to play MMOs and came from that era, right, of when it was like a pioneering genre, when it was the first sort of like 10 years ish, when it was evolving. What MMOs were designed to be and what they set out to be is unrecognizable from what they are nowadays. The audience is completely different. People play the games completely differently. They're designed completely differently. The entire idea of MMOs were supposed to be living worlds that you found your place in, and you made your place in it, and you played it for a long term. You were playing these games for years and years. Things took a really, really long time to do. That's just not true anymore. That's like the antithesis of how new MMOs are designed.
Yeah.
They're designed to be played around a patch cycle where you're in a small area and you do.
It's everything is seasonal content. You don't play the expansion, or you don't play the game, you play the expansion. You don't play the expansion anymore, you play the patch. And alongside of that is you don't play your favorite class. I mean, you can play your favorite class, or you can play the flavor of the month class, because essentially all MMOs are live service games, and all the classes, all the moves, all the abilities are constantly getting buffed and nerfed. And if you're just like a power gamer, you're just gonna play the best class, the flavor of the month class.
This stuff for a couple months and then we move on and it goes to another area and all the other stuff is kind of like forgotten. It's like maybe you'll have achievements and stuff that are kind of written into the history of your character and your experience, but for the most part you're just there and you just being moved through the world very quickly, to the point where it doesn't feel like you're in a world. It doesn't feel like anything's meaningful anymore, and it doesn't feel like it's been designed to play for long stretches of time concurrently. It's designed for like, I'll play a couple weeks here, I'll play a month here, and I'll come back in 6 and I'll be doing something completely different because the game's moved on without me. The games are just, people want everything very quickly nowadays, and that is the same for MMOs. The genre is unrecognizable from what it originally was.
Oh, okay, never mind. I was gonna say something, but no.
MMOs are not designed for MMO players. I just think that's the case, and it's been the case for a long time, and that's why this exists. There is not really a massive emphasis on the RPG part. No, I'm not.
Okay. So if most people don't want to put any time or effort or skill into anything and they just want the thing now, I mean, like you said before, the only people to blame, the only like person to blame is the person themselves. So I think I grew up like generally like liking video games, even though if I didn't play a game, I was at least aware of it. Um, so like when I first played World of Warcraft in like classic, or when was it? Like 2004 or 2008 or whenever WoW like first got released. Uh, I had a bunch of time that I could just sink into an MMO. And now that I'm like 34, I don't have seemingly. I mean, I would like to say I don't have a lot of amount of time, but I mean, shit. I mean, with like my current work schedule, it's like even if you just go off the basis of like a 40-hour work week, at times four for a month, so you work like 40 hours 4 times a week. Maybe you have like a 9 to 5 or something, however your schedule is. You you have less time in the day because you have to spend like 8 hours sleeping, and another 8 hours at work. So that's 16 hours. Then you got another 8 hours of just fucking around. Maybe you can squeeze in like an hour before and after, of work, and if you got like another hobby or something, you spend time with a significant other. Maybe you got kids. All of a sudden, that 8 hours starts to get chunked and chunked, less and less. And all of a sudden, oh, I had 8 hours to mess with, but now maybe I only have four. Maybe I only have 3 hours. Maybe I only have 2 hours. Oh shit. Shit starts to get really annoying.
I was talking about transmog. Transmog system is amazing. I've like a love-hate relationship with transmog, to be honest. It's okay in some areas, in some games, and I think it would be detrimental to other games. I think if you put transmog in old school RuneScape, the game would be worse off for it. Some people might disagree, but I like the idea of being able to see a change in your gear, like in a game like old school RuneScape, where you're changing your gear all the time for different tasks that you're doing and different things you're doing. Having transmog makes no sense. In a game like WoW, where you just wear your best gear, so you always look the same unless you're constantly upgrading, transmog makes a little bit more sense in the modern day. But if in classic WoW, transmog makes no sense because you want that visual progression. And I think transmog, in a way, kind of ruins visual progression, but it adds in a different element of game design. And
it does. It really does. And I could kind of see this because Monster Hunter also does this. I spent like a lot of time in playing Monster Hunter World, and Rise, going to be coming out 2025 and whatnot. And I am really used to playing like action adventure, like hack and slash, like magic type of games, and what you see on the screen is what the character has. It like that. Those are the stats. That's what I am used to. I am not really used to seeing other players look one way but have the stats of something else. That's just foreign to me. Even though I know that's like what WoW does and whatnot, and there's like a couple games that are transitioning into like having transmog in the game. Whether or not it's good for the overall gaming community to have like transmog, I mean, I guess it depends, essentially. But me personally, I would just say fuck transmog. It's stupid. Who cares? If you want to look a certain way, go put that armor on. If not, just leave whatever your favorite stats gear on. If your favorite stats gear it looks stupid, you're SOL.
And that is a representation of you and a manifestation of what you want to look like within the game, of the things you've achieved. So you can always change, oh, I feel like wearing green today, and treat it more as if it's like an extension of you, as opposed to just e-peening about the things you've earned. Which is more kind of like how I would see things and enjoy things. Like I'd prefer to have people see the stuff that I've earned that make it seem like I've spent a lot of time, that I'm skillful at the game. But that's a much smaller percentage of players than people who just want to be, standing around in their coolest armor set that might not be the best one in Elwyn Forest, sucking furry penis, virtually, of course. It's just different strokes for different folks and all that. This only gets paid cosmetic transmogs are still earned through the game, and that's why they are fine. It's just a different thing. Never forget, this whole pay-to-win era started with cosmetics. I didn't see anybody pointing out that this is just untrue. Pay-to-win era.
The whole pay-to-win era started with cosmetics. Pay-to-win. Didn't it start with like MapleStory? And then after that, it was the Oblivion horse armor. And then I forgot what it was after that. But, you know, MapleStory did have its own little pay-to-win mechanics, but not a lot of people knew about it. Well, unless you played MapleStory, which, you know, obviously the player base wasn't that big. Because anytime people reference, like, what started it all, they always reference the Oblivion horse armor was the beginning of the end.
It didn't start with cosmetics at all. And I'll explain why. The idea that cosmetics were like here first is just wrong, right? At the very inception of MMOs, people were paying to win without the involvement of the company. They were buying gold, they were selling gold, they were selling boosting, they were buying boosting, they were selling houses, they were selling items. Everything in MMOs that could be traded was purchased on like a black market, like a great.
Yes, and that, for that reason, is one of the main reasons why a lot of MMOs and MMO lights have had to battle with the decision to put in player trading, whether or not you are allowed to trade in a game. Because this is the argument: if you have trading, like playable, like player trading in the game, this like it allows for the situation to happen for one player to pay money to another player to just give stuff in the game. If trading is in the game, players will take advantage of it, obviously, but I would probably argue that that is probably a minority of players in most games. It's usually, I would guess it's never usually like a majority of players, because I mean, I'll go back to Monster Hunter again. In Monster Hunter, you cannot trade items. You cannot trade monster parts. You can't trade resources or anything like that. And I think that's fine. You know, like sometimes, what was it? I was trying to farm for like a Raging Brachydios, what do you call it? What was it called? The Immortal gem or something. I forgot the exact name. It's like the Immortal Shell, whatever. It was really hard to get. And fighting Raging Brachydios was a bitch. Okay? And then I had to fight him like, Jesus Christ, like 10 times before that I got that piece of material to drop. Meanwhile, my buddy is also like helping me out, and he's going through it like just as many times as I am. Meanwhile, on his 10th attempt, in grand total, he probably has like 6 or 7 of these damn things. Like, oh man, if only I could trade you. I'm like, yeah, dude, this would be so much more easy. But it's like, yes, I would have liked trading in the game, but that takes away from just the overall experience of the game, I think.
Gray market or whatever we're going to call it, and people being banned for it as early as like the mid 90s. They were selling stuff, by the way. There was developers for mods, multi-user dungeons in like the late 80s and like the early 90s, selling things in the games that were not cosmetics. Then you look at like a more mainstream adaptation of this concept, and you look at like MapleStory. They were selling pay to win and power within the game in like the early 2000s, which is really before we started to see like an adoption of cosmetics in MMOs, or obviously in games that weren't live services. It just doesn't come from that. It doesn't come from cosmetics. What pay to win comes from, and what it will always come from, and what it will always come down to, is that people will buy it. Because if you can put $1 value on somebody's time,
yep,
people might complain But 9 times out of 10, people will value their time over their money. It's why if you go to an amusement park, like a theme park or whatever, people will buy the fast track because they want to get more out of their time.
Yeah. Bro, I had no idea that there was like, because one of my buddies I work with has a like one of those fast track passes for I think either Disney or Universal or whatever. Apparently, there's like 3 tiers of lanes. There's like, and I'm guessing because there's like, okay, you got your normal pass, no fast track. You gotta wait in line. Sucks. Then you have your fast track, which is like, okay, I'm going. Yeah, you got money, whatever. That's like an awkward experience with the sets of people standing like right next to each other. Like, poor ass brokey, eat my dust. It sucks, and it's awkward. And then you have, I think it's like if you got a pass and you're disabled and you got like the disabled pass, you just go in that line, and you just go ahead. I think that's how it is. Don't quote me, but I think that's how it is. Bro, that's like one of the reasons I do not go to theme parks. Because, like, Jesus Christ, that is horrible.
If there's an option to skip something, like people will do this at like, security check-in at airports, whatever it's going to be.
Bro, security check-in at airports, they should 100% do that. Oh my God. If TSA had could come out with like tiered speed get through the lines, bro, honestly, I think everybody would just upgrade to the speed line, and then it would just be the same issue all over again. It's like there's the empty line that's on the right, which is like the normal level of like TSA checks, and then you have your speed out, your tier 1 speed up. Bro, everybody would just get that one, and it wouldn't even be any faster. Everybody would get that shit.
Deliveroo or Just Eat or whatever it is, a delivery app for food, they all now have priority, so your food comes to you first, but it costs you a little bit extra money.
Bro, I had no idea that like Grubhub or what's the other one? DoorDash had these like priority things. That's hilarious. Jesus Christ. Bro, God help me if I ever start to like because I haven't ordered anything from like Grubhub or DoorDash like at all ever. So like God help me if like I ever like go to that. Holy shit.
People will always pay for convenience, and a lot of the time convenience.
Not everybody. You just need enough people to prioritize convenience to make it worth it.
Is just saving time. So it never came from cosmetics, even like as a mechanism of when they brought it in. And it always came from like the psychology of just people will complain about it, but people will accept it, and way more people will function within that system and pay into that system than people that won't, or at least they'll pay so much money that they basically make up for the fact that you don't like it. It just is what it is. I'm sorry to say, regardless of whether we never had any of this stuff, we never had cosmetics or whatever else, one day, just through virtue of understanding psychology and the fact that this is in literally every industry ever across the board, people will always pay more for saving time and just getting stuff faster. It is what it is. Like, this just exists. And one of the worst things to happen to the industry. So the reason I want to talk about this originally was this comment right here by Suspicious Coffee 20. He says, and this is an opinion that's been upvoted a little bit, and I completely vehemently disagree with this, but it kind of plays into my point that MMOs are not designed for people who liked MMOs and long-term stuff before. He says, is it? Because maybe you all remember something else, but you used to always look like mismatched shit before transmog. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And therein lies the point, right? because how MMOs used to be designed was, yeah, you looked bad at the start because you were nobody. You'd done nothing. You were just in this world, and you'd been in this world for a very short period of time. And that was okay. That's why you looked like a 14th century peasant out in the fields.
Yeah.
But then when you looked at somebody who'd been in the world for a long time and who'd done something and had achieved things, and he'd slain the dragon, he'd killed the local bandit king or whatever, he looked cool and he looked better than you. And that was a driving factor for you to continue playing the game, to be like, I look bad now, but maybe if I put in the time and if I'm good enough, I can look like that guy. I can look like Pussy Smasher 7 or whatever his name was, instead of just looking like a peasant. This is how games used to be designed, but now you can log into a game and even if you didn't have a cash shop outfit or whatever, within the first sort of like hour of World of Warcraft retail, you're in some cool looking gear. Everyone's telling you you're a hero and you've done all these amazing things and how great you are and patting you on the back every 2 seconds. And the game's constantly bombarding you with things that you didn't earn in any way. And that's not an MMO. That's, I mean, maybe functionally it has enough players in the game and on the screen and things to be considered an MMO. But that's such a foreign idea of what the genre used to be to me. It's not like looking at an MMO. Like it's
You know what it seems like? I mean, it just seems like nobody wants to climb the ladder of cosmetics or doing anything anymore, or at least in like MMO aspects. You know, and like it's really weird because like if you ask someone that plays games and like they play like a little bit of everything, like when they play an MMO, they want everything now. But that same person will play like a single player game, like Elden Ring, Black with Wukong, Monster Hunter, some other game, I don't know, Metal Gear, something, any sort of single player game. That same person has no problem climbing the ladder of looks in that game. And I don't really know why that is. I think it's because when you introduce the aspect of, you know, people in like a multiplayer sense, people want to just flex something. And it's all about, I don't know, you know, having some like false sense of pride in a game. It's like, oh, maybe I'm new to the game, maybe I haven't done anything, but you know, at least I got like a fat wallet and I just want to, you know, lay it down on the table and be like, bam, I got this cool ass armor and yeah, I just look like a badass. But if that same person goes into a single player game, it's like, well, they can't do that anymore. Then I don't know. It's like maybe that like, and that I don't know, maybe that's like a unique type of player, someone that plays a little bit of everything, versus someone that only plays like multiplayer games where you can buy stuff and just wail out, versus like another type of player that doesn't play anything that has like payable cosmetics, that only plays like single player type games where you can't buy anything. So I don't know, I think it just winds down to the type of player in each, like, that's playing each like type of game.
Unrecognizable in my eyes. So yeah, it is. This is one of the worst things to happen if you appreciate what MMOs used to be, why they were designed that way, how they were played. But nowadays it's they're just unrecognizable. They're not the same thing at all. My only complaint is what you get from hard achievements and content should be at the same level as what you sell in a store. Never gonna happen. Ever. For every cosmetic added in the store, a free one that is equally good, shiny, stands out, should be available in game. This is just...
What do you say? For every cosmetic added in a store, a free one that's equally good and shiny, stands out, should be available in game. No, that won't happen. No, no, because then where's the value proposition? If one guy pays $20 for a skin to look like shiny armor guy, or like red shiny armor guy, but there's a player in a game that has the same armor, but it's just like a different color. Like, and this is like blue shiny armor guy. It's like, where is the value proposition besides color? Like, there is none. Because to most players, that like doesn't that like the color thing doesn't even matter. And if anything, people, I think, are starting to get a little bit smarter in that respect. In that, let's say you have like shiny red armor guy and shiny blue armor guy. When people see the shiny red armor guy, they will pick up and know that that motherfucker paid for his shit, and the blue shiny armor guy, he put time and effort into the game. So this one is going to be like more well respected, you know, in a game, in a video game. Okay. So then if this guy's going to get like shit on by the general population because everybody knows that the shiny red armor is like the paid one and everyone just shits on him, no one's going to want to buy the shiny red armor because everyone's just going to shit on him.
This is just one of those things that people, if you think about for longer than like a minute or so, you come to the understanding that this can never happen. It's just copium. People have said this about other games like Ashes of Creation. People always say, and Steven says this himself, like, oh, there'll be skins that look just as good earned in the game and blah, blah, blah. It comes down to common sense and business. If it takes you 1 hour to make two things, right, 1 hour each, one of them doesn't meaningfully increase your subscriber count. It doesn't meaningfully increase your review score to make more people come and play. It doesn't meaningfully increase people's enjoyment. And then the other one does meaningfully earn you more money for the same amount of effort and time. Which one are you going to continue to put more effort into? Doesn't matter if it's next week, next month, next year. Always, and this might not be the case for some people who just are rich and just own a game, which never really lasts in my experience. But for a business, every business higher up is going to go, yeah, that was a great idea and all, when people said that they cared about that thing a lot, but we're not seeing like a meaningful retention or...
Yeah, the numbers don't reflect what everyone is saying. People's actions aren't matching up with what they say.
Uptick in anything metric wise, business wise, that is helping us. So do more of that one. Earn more money for the same amount of work. So that's where the impetus is, and that's where it will always go. Like, this is just, it just is what it is. This is just another one of those cases of like, water's wet here. So, and it's going to continue to be wet whether or not you're upset about it or you feel some kind of way about it.
Yeah.
It's sad, but I mean, nothing about the current MMO industry is not sad, in my opinion. One of the biggest gripes about Guild Wars 2, you got all that great content, but you'll never look as good as $20 in the cash shop. Better get spending that $20 then.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things. I think a lot of people are kind of where I was a couple of years ago with the MMO genre and just things in general. If you asked me like 7 years ago about my opinion on Game of Thrones, the TV show, I'd have been like, oh, they did this differently than the book and it wasn't as good as the books and they missed this out and they did this and they did that. And I could do that about everything, about Harry Potter, about Lord of the Rings, about The Hobbit, whatever it's going to be, The Witcher. And I think that has a place in like reviews and if you're like a super mega fan. But where it doesn't have a place is in enjoyment, right? And I think over recent years, I've come to do this with everything in my life. Instead of wanting something to be how I want it to be, and if it's not enjoying it and like ruining my enjoyment or lessening my enjoyment of it, I've instead just decided to take the thing for what it is. And if I can enjoy it for being that thing that it's trying to be and not what I want it to be, that's always going to be better because I'm not having some kind of like preconceived idea or notion or whatever it's going to be or expectation. I'm just doing the thing. It's why...
Just take it for what it is. It is what it is. And just accepting it. I think, like me personally, I think I should probably do this more because I don't know. I think, in terms of like FPS games, I've like just purposely not played a lot of FPS games just because, for whatever reason, it's like this thing's bad, this thing's wrong, the server sucks, anti cheat this, controller versus MK that. Um, for whatever reason, I just don't. Even though I like FPS, I just simply just don't play a lot of, I don't know, online multiplayer games anymore. Uh, and I don't know. I think maybe I have denied myself a lot of, like, I don't know, just like friendship like interactions probably. For my own stupid moral righteous reasons. And I don't know, maybe I should like change it up. Probably.
A lot of like outrage about media nowadays. I don't get involved in it. I don't talk about it, other than to maybe give like a bit of a tempered expectation or a tempered opinion on, I guess, how it would be easier or better for people to see things, which sounds a little bit, fart sniffy, but at the same time, it's just true. If you look at something and you think, oh, this would be way better if it was like X, Y, and Z, you're probably going to keep thinking about that to the point where to your own detriment, where you don't enjoy the thing. And a lot of the times things are just okay, they're just fine. And if I was comparing like the Game of Thrones TV show and saying it wasn't as good as the books, like, yeah, but it was different and I enjoyed it. So there's no real point like getting massively deep in the weeds there when all I'm trying to do is enjoy something. And it doesn't have to be the same for it to be something that I enjoy.
I could see that being an issue from book to movie or book to show if you read the book first. Because I don't know, anytime somebody reads like a story or something, and then they watch the show, they always go, the book was better. But me personally, like if I watch a show first and I discover that the story was based off of a book, I am more inclined to go and read the book and see what was different in the book. So I think that going that way from like show to book is, I don't know, like betterment, or like it leads to like more content if you like a certain thing or something like that. But it just sucks if you read the book first and then saw the movie, saw the show, and it's like, it wasn't as good. So I get it. Because currently, like, what was it? I was reading, like, I've seen all the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies, but then I was just like, man, everybody says those books were good, but I just haven't read them. So I just recently got done like reading the Hobbit, and like, god dang, that shit was so good. I was like, okay, I get it. The books were better. So, yeah.
It's the same thing with MMOs. I spent years looking for the perfect MMO. It doesn't exist. I spent years thinking that, one day something that was like the older games that I really enjoyed would come out. But there's no point. There's no point waiting for that. There's every point, though, to go back and play the older games, to play the newer games for what they are and enjoy them. And then as soon as I stop, to just move on. Maybe in like a review capacity, I'll talk about it because I am a content creator at the end of the day. But for me personally, this shit just doesn't really matter anymore because I'm going to find something. There's always going to be something to play. And if there isn't, I'll just do something else. I'll go read a book. I'll go play some Magic the Gathering. I'll go do some of the other things I enjoy doing. Watch the infinite amount of content that exists now on YouTube and Netflix and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
There's always something vying for your attention.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The idea that you're going to like expect something to be what you want and not enjoy it for what it is, but maybe miss out on something that could have brought you enjoyment is very silly to me now. Maybe that's the thing of getting older or just viewing things differently.
Yeah.
But the same thing.
And I think as time goes on, more and more people will feel that way too.
With MMOs, I don't like what modern MMOs are, but at the same time, I'll still play them. And I know I'll still get some enjoyment out of some of them. Retail WoW, new expansion comes out later this month. I've bought it already. I'll be on day one. and I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy it loads and loads for probably a month, maybe 2 months at the outset. And then I'll probably think, yeah, it's just not the same as what I used to play. But it's cool in these different ways. And then I'll go back and play Classic for a bit to remember what I liked about that.
Member berries.
I'll have conversations about it. Maybe I'll make a video about it. I'll reminisce with my friends and talk about like the things that I wish they went in directions for. And then I'll move on. And then the new expansion will come out and I'll do the same thing. I'm not going to let, my brain stop me from enjoying things that I definitely can do. So let's look at a few more of these. Play old school RuneScape. True. Biggest advocate right now for old school RuneScape. The game is it's just great. It's just so much fun. A lot of people can't get past the graphics because, as you can see, I don't think playing a game where
yeah, that's the thing for me. It's like it's so bad, but I know that's not the main attractor for OSRS. I just don't want. I can't wrap my head around the graphics. It's the same concept of, everything right now is in color in like TV and shit. Most people can't go back and watch black and white shows or movies. I mean, if you can, great, but you're an outlier. That's not the case for most people. Even though there are a lot of great movies and shows that were like happened back in the day in black and white.
Where everyone and everything looks terrible is the solution. There's graphics mods now for it, and the game looks fine. I've never been a graphics person anyway. If gameplay is good, I couldn't care less. I'll still play Dwarf Fortress, not on the Steam version, because it's just a great game. And yeah, play Iron Man. Iron Man's just way better. It makes you experience all the game. I suppose that's why I liked for a time back then Mew Online. If you saw playing Glowing Armor, you knew not to mess with them, simple and clear. It's why I like Lineage 2. At best, at a time, you could get a fun hat. On one hand, transmogs are fun, but on the other, newbie me back then really enjoyed seeing folks in top grade stuff and knowing they are a real deal. Like I say, I think in some games transmog fits, and I think in others it really doesn't. And this is true. There's like a thing with having gear represent, knowing what people are in, having some kind of like visceral feedback of just seeing and knowing, they're strong in PvP, I shouldn't be fighting them.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's going to be, recognizing something based on the aesthetic and the things that they're wearing, and having that knowledge in the game is like, that's a cool thing in and of itself. And we've kind of lost that now because you never know. You'll have a number on screen now that just represents their value of what they're wearing, like eye level or whatever. I think we're worse off for that from like a game design perspective and just an enjoyment perspective, even if you remove all the element of like the not having cool cosmetics in the game and whatever else. I think just from that design intuitive perspective, it's just worse. But again, it is what it is. It's never coming back. The only time you're going to get a game that doesn't have cosmetics is when it's like a small indie, and they will eventually sell cosmetics or their game will die. It just is what it is. There is a sweet spot, I think, where you could have an MMO subscription only and earn enough money to go on and live and make the game continually for years and years to come. But I also think that cosmetics is so widely accepted that why would you at this point?
Yeah.
Other than like, standing on business or whatever.
Do you think that when, the next Elder Scrolls comes out, it's like largely a single player game. Do you think Elder Scrolls is going to have some sort of paid cosmetics in there? Probably not on release, because they don't want to have another horse armor fiasco, since that's the IP that started one of the IPs that started all the bullshit. Skyrim came out, and Skyrim had a bunch of great DLC, but I don't really remember if they had any like paid cosmetics in it. And I don't know if the next Elder Scrolls is going to have some form of multiplayer in it, because if it does, then you're going to start to see that slippery slope of, oh shit, it's going to have paid cosmetics and so on and so forth. I really hope they do not fuck that up. Oh, man. That's going to be sad.
It just doesn't make a ton of sense. and especially because tomorrow's never guaranteed, and you can't really hate on developers for doing like lesser of what everyone else is doing with pay to win and blah blah blah, which exists in almost every MMO. I can't really hate on that, especially if they're a small team and they are getting the money and they're using it to better the game. At the same time, I can think it's bad for the actual game design, because for me as a consumer, it absolutely is. But at the end of the day, there is a middle ground to be striked here. Does that sentence make sense? Who cares? It is what it is. I'm fucking tired.
There's a middle ground to be had. The developers want more money. The players don't want to give more money. The developers, I don't know. The developers are not necessarily the developers, but the publishers, or the people that are like divvying up for the game. Players want. I don't even know what players want. I was gonna say players want visual progression, but since that's not really the case, it's like some people want visual progression. Other people don't give a shit about it. At least in MMOs. There's just so many different types of people that play MMOs for their own specific reason. And it's even more weird for World of Warcraft when you have so many end game things to just mess with.
I've done a cross-continent move again within the last 4 days. It is what it is. And
Damn.
Also on top of that, with how people play MMOs nowadays, you can't really fault them to try and make money off people quickly, because it's not like 20 years ago where somebody would buy a game or pay a sub for a game and think, I'm going to give this a try for a month. This is going to be the game I play for the next few weeks. Nowadays, because everything's got a free trial, everything's so easy to access, everything's like instant, you kind of need to make money off people very quickly, because they're there 1 minute and they're gone another. It's just kind of one of those things about the market that there's just so many things. I don't know.
And I think that one reason that is a thing is because of the internet and social media and everybody's ability to share information. Bro, when an MMO comes out or any game comes out, the damn game is solved before the game even comes out. This is the best way to farm gold ore. This is the best way to farm herbs. This is the fastest gold route. This is the best way to get these skins, or like animal skins. This is the best way to get leather. This is the best way to get this XYZ skill up. This is the best way how to get your fishing maxed, this profession maxed. All this information just contributes to the general player base discovering and exploring the game and metaing the shit out of the game at a much higher pace than would otherwise be done organically without the YouTube and everything. So, I mean, that's just the world we live in right now.
Who said it, but this is just true. When you're making like a YouTube video or literally anything that somebody has to consume, content wise, or like a video game or media or a book, you're not just competing with other versions of that thing, or the books if it's a book, or the YouTube videos if it's a YouTube video. You're competing with their attention span, because they have like a million things at their fingertips nowadays that they can be doing that isn't your thing, which does extend to business. You just have to be getting things immediately. Stop playing Tarzan because the gear doesn't change your appearance. That's the one thing that I will never forgive, because that's the fucking peak of laziness. I can sort of understand when you equip a piece of gear and it just looks bad, because they're like, oh, if you want to look good, get yourself in the cash shop. But when you put something on and it doesn't change anything, wow, is that
that is weird. I can't really imagine that being in a game that's so intuitive for 99% of gamers. I get new item, I get new loot, I put it on, I look different. But I guess not in Taurusland. I mean, whatever. If that's what the player base likes, then that's what the player base likes.
Lazy. That's just the worst, man. That's really, really bad. That's just mobile game shit. And to be honest, with Taurusland, they asked me to do a sponsored video on that, and I don't know if it was the company or the marketing company, but their demands were outrageous. They wanted me to script the video
Oh,
before I'd played the game. And I was like, how does that work? How am I
yeah.
going to start scripting the video when I've not even played the game? I've never even seen a trailer for it beyond like the initial
Huh.
teaser. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, this ain't going to work for me, man. I don't lie for money. So I'd have nothing to say on a script of a game I've not played. And they're like, oh, here's a brief. You can just follow this. I'm like, nah, miss me with that one, man. Fucking reject that email.
I mean, doesn't that kind of go against like what you said before? In that you said you just take things for, you're trying to take more things just as they are, you know, without the preconceptions of it. It's like there's a piece of you that wants to stay true and like hold your guns, but I mean, shit, if it's like a sponsorship, I mean, I don't know how much money it is, whatever, but I mean, there's another piece of you that's got to be like, oh, come on, man, get that bag, but it's like, oh, I don't want to sell out. It's like this back and forth. I don't know. I'm not Kira.
reject those thousands of dollars. I don't get how people want to look cool at level 1. This just goes back to what I was saying earlier about how people play MMOs for completely different reasons. They're different games for different people now. The idea that you'd want to look cool at level 1 is just kind of like a foreign concept to me.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I'm thinking of when you join a new game and you're the lowest of the low. You're the literal peon. And some people are like, man, why don't I look amazing? It's just, you're not supposed to. But I guess nowadays you just drop the wallet out and you do. I just love the idea of character becomes more and more cooler looking. The transmog idea is cool, but I just don't like it either at all. Again, it fits some games and it doesn't fit others.
Yeah.
It fits retail WoW with how much gear there is in that and how long the game's been going and how people play it and how quickly people replace gear. But it doesn't fit older versions of that game. It doesn't fit a game like old school RuneScape. It's not really. It's just one of those things. It's going to be different for everybody. And again, with Transmog, you do open the door for people to feel represented with their character at all times.
Yeah.
Which is not something I value, but it's something a lot of people do. I just love to see.
How does that make sense? Because you have Transmog in the game, you allow everybody to feel represented? That doesn't make sense to me, because if you have Transmog in a game with like swords and magic, generally you have like armor and shit. Like, I don't really attach my feeling represented with armor. I'm just like, is the armor cool? Great, I'll put that on. Is the armor not cool? Okay, I'll just pass on that one. I don't want to put that on. That's literally it for me. Like, I don't attach my I don't know, my virtual like connection with the game to like feeling represented. Like, oh, like I don't know, maybe I'd have to think about it more. But I don't know, knee-jerk response, that's just like, it doesn't, that's just like weird.
See people really grinded games and got like a really cool virtual presence in return. That doesn't go away with Transmog because they still have to earn the thing before they do the Transmog. But it is what it is. There are some threads out there where somebody needs to really make the infographic of how people treat new MMOs that are coming out. Because when Throne and Liberty first got announced, we were like here, and it was like, this is pay-to-win Korean trash. And then the next thing we went to was a bunch of people saying, oh, no, it's not pay to win. It's not pay to win. And then the next thing we went to was a large amount of copium and hopium of like, oh, maybe this one's going to be different. Maybe this one will be better and blah, blah, blah. We did this with Bless. We did this with Lost Ark. We did this with New World.
Dang.
All games that objectively you could see beforehand. There was like 1,000,001 problems, and everyone who explained those problems got massive amounts of hate, myself being one of the main people who did. And then the next thing we went to is, now let's just explain how every game is pay to win and every MMO is pay to win, and that's why Throne of Liberty being pay to win is not a bad deal, because some of the other games have got it as well. Ignoring the fact that one thing I've seen recently is people comparing pay to win in WoW to pay to win in Korean games, and it's like,
I mean, yeah, you can do that, but it's like then you're like in the weeds. You're in the minutia of, I can get WoW tokens and gold for like real money, and then I could just exchange that for like gear and shit. I mean, I don't know what Korean game he's talking about. I just simply have no idea. But I find that like getting into the weeds is stupid because it's just gradient of pay to win. It's either pay to win, pay for cosmetic, or it's not. See, like in my head, it's binary, but in reality, it's like a gradient of it. Like on one hand, you have like Elden Ring. On the other side, you have Diablo Immortal. Polar opposites. And there's a bunch of different games in the middle that have varying degrees, aspects of pay to win, pay for cosmetics, pay for convenience, pay for inconvenience, or whatever, what have you.
Like, you guys, I don't know why you need to do this to like try and convince people that you want to play the game. You can just do that, that's fine. But when you say things that like this apple and this orange are the same, it's just kind of ridiculous for anyone paying attention. But that's kind of where we're at now. And then the game will release. There'll be like a couple weeks of cope that it's like the greatest thing ever. And actually, why did anyone say this game was bad and it was going to fail? And then we'll get up to this game's pay to win Korean trash again. and the cycle will begin anew when a new game comes out. It's just kind of like the infinite loop of MMOs releasing. I'm looking forward to Throne and Liberty coming out because I played the beta and the world's really cool and it felt like a fun game to play. And I'll probably play it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months and enjoy it for what it is. But the game, unless drastic things change, the game's not going to do very well. I might make a video talking about that thread I saw pop up on the MMO subreddit the other day where people were comparing the pay to win in the game to WoW and things like that and how silly that is as a concept. But either way, I think that's it for this one. Go do me a favor, buy some gamer subs because I'm absolutely broke after that move. Look at this for a Jesus cup. Look at, she's such a lovely, lovely person. Love it. So you can buy game subs at the code in the link in the video description, and I'm going to attach a video to the end of this video where you can see these cool anime statues behind me.
Oh shit!
I'm not affiliated with these at all. I just wanted to show them because they're cool. So I'll attach that. And yeah, if you buy game subs to the link in the video description, you get a discount. I get some money. It costs you no more. It actually saves you money. And you can get waifu cups. They do merch now. I've got some somewhere, but I had to like pack a bunch of stuff that's still in Thailand. So unfortunately, I don't have most of my things. And they need to send me some more drinks because those couldn't be moved either, unfortunately. So I'm completely out of waifu juice. But there we go. Thanks for watching. As always, you'll be seeing a lot more content from me on this channel and the main channel going forward now that I have a working computer. Because unfortunately, when I moved, the stuff I brought on the plane with me in my checked luggage all got smashed. My computer got smashed. I've had to replace the power supply and the motherboard, and both of my monitors got smashed. So there's literally like over $1,500 worth of stuff that got broke while moving.
That's bullshit.
And obviously, moving continent's very expensive, so we're on a bit of a budget setup right now. So there's going to be lots of content coming out, so I can actually have furniture in this currently completely empty house where I'm sleeping on a mattress on the floor like a fucking crackhead. But there we go.
That's fine.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Dang. Well,
You actually...
I think Kira had a lot of great points to bring up. For the most part, I just like agreed with him on a lot of the shit. Like visual progression's pretty much dead. Yes, there are like some games that can have it, but for the most part, a lot of games just defer to paid cosmetics and whatnot. But I don't know, it's really weird because if you look at like all video games and like all like computer games, what types of games are people like hanging out in? Well, that's multiplayer games. Well, multiplayer games are gonna be more likely to have like cash shops and like not necessarily pay to win, but at least pay for cosmetics in them. Single player games or just older games are probably going to be like more likely to not have cash shops simply for the fact that those cash shops didn't exist in those games. So I don't know. I'd probably really need to like get a breakdown and see like what types of games are people majority playing. Is it multiplayer or single player? Is it old? Is it new? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's a great video. This just details the visual progression in MMOs. Yeah, go check out Kira. He's goated. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, later.